Hi everyone, Miss Mayorga again. This is part 2 of lesson 21. We are on bubble 6, so let's get started. Bubble A, rising bubble. We're almost done with this lesson, just a few more activities. Rising bubble, if it loads. It's taking forever to load. Give it a second. Yep, taking longer than usual. Give it a second. Whew. There we go. All right, rising bubble. This program makes a bubble rise up the water. Can you make it get faster as it rises? Use the counter pattern and the Sprite's Y velocity to make the bubble move up more quickly. All right, so we have our bubble here, and we need to use the Sprite's Y velocity and the counter pattern. So let's grab our Y velocity block, velocity Y, dropping it under line 8. Let's go ahead and change the name, bubble. And we need to just make it go up faster. So if you look at the velocity is negative 0.5, right? That's going to make it go upwards, negative velocity. Now we want the velocity to remain negative, but just go faster. So to make this more negative, should we add or should we subtract? Adding or subtracting? What's going to make the velocity more negative? Subtracting, yeah, and if you're not 100% sure why, right, an example, right, so we have negative 0.5. If we add 1, we get 0.5, positive. We have negative 0.5. If we subtract 1, we get negative 1.5. All right, so we become more negative here by subtracting. So that's what we need, subtraction. Minus operator. Velocity Y, bubble, and you can go ahead and choose how much you want to subtract. Let me start with 0.25. Let's see how that looks. There it goes. Maybe 0.5? I don't know, it might be too fast. That's fine. I think I like, let's try 0.35. I don't know, I'm just trying random numbers. Sure. 0.35 works for me. All right, so go ahead and choose a value and move on to the next one. Activity B, slow down and reverse. Slow down and reverse. In this animation, a mouse runs past a cat. Let's change it so that the mouse slows down, stops before reaching the cat, then reverses directions like shown to the right. Okay, so we have our mouse, it's going past the cat. Note the current x velocity of the mouse sprite. So let's take a look at our code. What is the x velocity of the mouse? Look at your code. Where's the velocity of the mouse? Line 9. So the velocity of the mouse is negative 20. What that tells us is, since it's negative, does the sign, positive or negative? Negative tells us it's moving to the left, And 20 tells us, the value tells us how fast. So it's moving to the left pretty fast at a speed of 20. So what we want to do is we want to use the counter pattern to change the velocity so that it approaches 0, then changes direction. Hint, since the mouse starts with a negative velocity, you'll actually want to increase it to slow it down, right? So here's what's happening. We want to go from negative 20 to 0 to positive. Right, positive. So in order to do that, we would have to do addition. Negative 20 plus 20 would give us 0, right? If we do subtraction, negative 20 minus 20, then that becomes more negative, and that's not what we want. We want to go to 0 and then become positive. So we need to use the addition operator here. So let's go ahead and grab our velocity x, drop it in our draw loop, change the name. This is for the mouse sprite. Addition operator. Velocity x again. My face is in the way. Let me go ahead and, should I zoom out? Sure. I feel like that's too small though. All right, I'll zoom in. I'm gonna move my face for a second. There. Mouse velocity x. And then you kind of have to figure out what value is going to work for this, right? What value is going to get the mouse close enough to the cat, but not all the way. So go ahead and play around with it. Pause the video, play around, and find a good value. All right, so in class, a lot of my students discovered that adding 1 would be a good value. My face is in the way over there now. So I'm going to reset and run. And there we go. Right, by adding 1, it slows down, then goes to 0, and then comes back. If we add, I'm going to just zoom out. If we add a smaller decimal, like 0.2, it's going to go further to the left. It's going to take a while, and then come back. Sorry. So the reason that's happening is because when you're adding 0.2, it's going to take a lot longer to get to 0, right? From -20 to 0, it's going to take a lot longer to get to 0. So it's going to go to the left for longer. Versus when we add 1, it's going to get to 0 faster. So it's not going to go to the left as much. And then it'll start going to the right. All right. Finish. Continuing on to the next one. Last activity. Bubble 7. Okay. Looks like gravity. The rock is thrown in the air, but it never falls back down. Use the code you've practiced to make the rock slow down and then fall. Try different numbers in your counter pattern to see what you like best. Okay, so the rock is moving upwards, which is velocity y. So we know we're going to work with velocity y. All right, here we go. Rock. Now the question becomes, do we do addition or we do subtraction? Right now the velocity is at -10. We want to go from -10 to 0 and then to positive. So very similar to the other one, right? So we want to go from -10 to 0 to positive, right? We can say +10. So how do we do that? Do we add or do we subtract to -10? We have to add, right? -10 plus 10 would give us 0. But if we do subtraction, -10 minus 10, that's going to give us -20. So we don't want this. We want addition. So let's go ahead and use the addition operator. Rock velocity y. And you get to choose. Make it realistic. We don't want the rock to just like super quickly go up and down. We don't want it to go all the way up past the top and then come down. It's got to be realistic. So go ahead and play around with the values. See if you can find one that you like. I'm going to go ahead and try 0.2. There it goes, and then it comes down. Right? If you want it to come down sooner, then use a different value, a bigger value. Right? Remember, the smaller the decimal that we add. So if I add 0.1, it's going to take longer to get to 0, so it's going to go up higher. And then it's going to start coming down at some point. There we go. Versus if I add 0.5, right, it's going to get to 0 faster, so it'll stop faster and then turn around faster. Right there. But that's a little too low. It's up to you, obviously. I'm going to try 0.25. There we go. I like 0.25, but you are welcome to choose a value that you'd like. All right. And that's pretty much it. We used the same structure over and over, right? That counter pattern, velocity y gets velocity y plus or minus something, right? Or velocity x. And you can create some cool effects here with that. Go ahead and click finish. Continuing on. The last bubble are challenges. If you're in my class, you don't have to do these. These are optional. You're always welcome to try them out. Free play is a nice just open space where you can try anything you want. This is where I coded the video that's in my notebook, right? Coding the little alien or monster that's jumping up and down. And here's the code that I used for that. I used a conditional here to just keep it bouncing up and down, right? But again, this bubble is optional, right? And like always, if you have any questions about any of the bubbles, let me know. Send me a message on Schoology or let me know in class. All right, goodbye everybody. I'll see you in the next video.